Sit up, sit up, sit up, it's a kangaroo call. A kangaroo call. In a dusty room, I come to assume that I've been doomed to lose my mind tonight. Too weak to fight. So I try to save face and I rest my case. The judge pulls me aside, says, "C'est la vie. Let your darker side come out to feed." Shut up, shut up, shut up. Sit up, sit up, sit up. It's a kangaroo call. A kangaroo call. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Sit up, sit up, sit up. It's a kangaroo call. A kangaroo call.
I can't do sexy.
Wasting time, always trying to rhyme. Yes, I am guilty, but don't misunderstand me. I admit defeat, then I move my feet. My history will never be repeated. I won't ever be repeated. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Sit up, sit up, sit up. It's a kangaroo call. A kangaroo call. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Sit up, sit up, sit up, it's a kangaroo call. A kangaroo call. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Sit up, sit up, sit up, it's a kangaroo call. A kangaroo call. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Sit up, sit up, sit up, it's a kangaroo call. A kangaroo call.
1, 2, 3.
Well, it's your birthday. Let's act like it is and just go crazy. Do what we want with no reason why. Life ain't long enough, so let's celebrate and get drunk on good love. And remember what it's like to just dance all night. We'll dance all night. That's the way that we're doing it, doing it. We go big or we go back home. People looking at us like we're losing it, losing it. But baby, we ain't doing nothing wrong. Gonna be up all night, chasing the sunrise. Like we're wild and young, baby, kids on the run. Gonna party like we just turned 21. Let's treat this town like we own it. And baby, if you wanna get out, you can drive this car like you stole it. Like we're runaways, like we're superstars, like we're fireworks burning in the dark. That's the way that we're doing it, doing it. We go big or we go back home. People looking at us like we're losing it, losing it. Baby, we ain't doing nothing wrong. Gonna be up all night, chasing the sunrise. Like we're wild and young, baby, kids on the run. Gonna party like we just turned 21.
Yeah, I guess I'm a disappointment. Doing everything I can, I don't wanna make you disappointed. It's annoying. I just wanna make you feel like everything I ever did was never trying to make an issue for you. But I guess the more you thought about everything, you were never even wrong in the first place, right? Yeah, I'ma just ignore you, walking towards you. With my head down, looking at the ground, I'm embarrassed for you. Paranoia, what did I do wrong this time? That's parents for you, very loyal. Should I have my back? Would you put a knife in my hands? For what else should I carry for you? I care for you, but on the edge right now. I wish that I could say I'm proud. I'm sorry that I let you down. Let you down. All these voices in my head get loud. I wish that I could shut them out. I'm sorry that I let you down. Let you down. Yeah. You don't wanna make this work, you just wanna make this worse. Want me to listen to you, but you don't ever hear my words. You don't wanna know my hurt yet. Let me guess, you want an apology, probably. How can we keep going at a rate like this? We can't, so I guess I might have to leave. Please don't come after me. I just wanna be alone right now. I don't really wanna think at all. Go ahead, just drink it all. Both know you're gonna call them on like nothing's wrong. Ain't that what you always do? I feel like every time I talk to you, you're in an awful mood. What else can I offer you? There's nothing left right now. I give it all to you. On the edge right now. I wish that I could say I'm proud. I'm sorry that I let you down. Let you down.
Your attention, please. The program will begin in 10 minutes. Please move to your seats.
Call it love and devotion. Call it a mom's adoration. Foundation, a special bond of creation. Ha! For all the single moms out there going through frustration. Clean Bandit, China Ball, and Marie thing make them air.
She works the nights by the water. She's gone astray, so far away from her father's daughter. She just wants a life for a baby. All on her own, no one will come. She's got to save him.
Daily struggle.
She tells him, ooh, love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all of my love. Nobody matters like you.
Stay up there.
She
Stay
tells
up
him
there.
your life ain't gonna be nothing like my life. You're gonna grow and have a good life. I'm gonna do what I got
Stay
to
up there.
do.
Stay up
So
there.
rock-a-bye, baby, rock-a-bye. I'm gonna rock you, rock-a-bye, baby. Don't you cry. Somebody's got you, rock-a-bye, baby, rock-a-bye. I'm gonna rock you, rock-a-bye, baby. Don't you cry. Rock-a-bye. No.
Rockabye, rocka, rocka, rockabye. Rockabye, rocka, rocka, rockabye. Single mama.
Your attention, please. The program is about to begin. Please move to your seats and silence your mobile devices.
Well prepared and no mama you never shed tear. Cause you have to set things year after year. And you give the youth love beyond compare. You find the school fee and the bus fare. Already pops disappear. In a wrong bar can't find him nowhere. Steadily your workflow, everything you know. So you not stop, no time for your dare.
Now she got a 6-year-old, trying to keep him warm, trying to keep out the cold. When he looks in her eyes, he don't know he is safe when she says, ooh, love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all of my love. Nobody matters like you. So rock-a-bye, baby, rock-a-bye. I'm gonna rock you, rock-a-bye, baby. Don't you cry. Somebody's got you, rock-a-bye, baby, rock-a-bye. I'm gonna rock you, rock-a-bye, baby. Don't you cry.
With a bang, bang, bang. Alright then.
No.
Rockabye, rocka, rocka, rockabye. Rockabye, rocka, rocka, rockabye. Rockabye, don't bother cry. Lift up your head, lift it up to the sky, yo. Rockabye, don't bother cry. Angels around you, just dry your eye.
Now she got a 6-year-old, trying to keep him warm, trying to keep out the cold. When he looks in her eyes, he don't know he is safe when she says,
She tells him, ooh, love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all of my love. Nobody matters like you.
Stay up there.
She
Stay
tells
up there.
him your life ain't gonna be nothing like my life.
Straight.
You're gonna grow and have a good life. I'm gonna do what I got to do. Yeah. So rock-a-bye, baby, rock-a-bye.
Rock-a-bye, rock-a-rock-a, rock-a-bye.
You rock-a-bye, baby, don't you cry.
Rock-a-bye, rock-a-rock-a, rock-a-bye.
You rock-a-bye, baby, rock-a-bye.
Rock-a-bye, rock-a-rock-a, rock-a-bye.
You rock-a-bye, baby, don't you cry.
With a bang, bang, bang. Alright then. Rock-a-bye, don't bother cry. Lift up your head, lift it up to the sky, yo. Rock-a-bye, don't bother cry. Angels around you, just joy your eye car. Rock-a-bye, don't bother cry. Lift up your head, lift it up to the sky, yo. Rock-a-bye, don't bother cry. Angels around you, just joy your eye.
Good morning and welcome to the 2022 Fire Rescue International Opening General Session. Please stand and welcome the Combined Alamo Area Honor Guard with the Combined Alamo Area Pipe and Drum Corps and remain standing for the singing of the National Anthem by retired firefighter Nathan Batson.
Firefighter Nathan Batson of the San Antonio Fire Department sang at department events throughout his 37-year career and continued on even after his retirement in 2012. You could always count on hearing that deep, passionate voice at graduations, funerals, and conferences where the San Antonio Fire Department was represented. Unfortunately, we lost Nate, or Batman as he was known around the fire station, to cancer earlier this year. As a tribute to his memory, we thought it fitting to have Nathan sing the national anthem one more time in representation of his fire department. It is my honor to ask you to stand and pay respect to the United States as firefighter Nathan Batson sings the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early lights what so proudly we hailed the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous flight, all the ramparts re-white were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomber's sting in air, it gave proof all through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land and of the free and the hope of the brave.
Please remain standing for the National Anthem of Canada. Please remain standing for the invocation by Captain Jerome Whitley of the San Antonio Fire Department.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to once again come together. Your Son came to us as the perfect example of how we are to serve. We pray that as we come together here, that we can refine our tactics, our procedures, to better care for your flock. When the trip drops, I pray that we will see Christ in all those we are called to serve, and through our words, deeds, and actions, that they will see Christ in us. Yesterday I had an early morning appointment, and it was an hour's drive for me. I ran into a very dear friend who came from the other direction, about the same drive. And she sent me a picture of a plaque hanging on the wall at her destination. And I felt I had to share that with you today. It's Michael's message. It was Father Michael Judge, chaplain of the New York Fire Department. It titles him as the saint of 9/11. And it goes like this: Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say, and keep me out of your way. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please be seated. And now, please welcome your MC for Fire Rescue International, Monica Samtani.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Nice to see you all. I can't believe it's been a year. I'm just going to wait for a prompter. In the meantime, I'm going to be doing a video again, so get ready, because I'm going to try to find you. Everyone know what the theme is this year? Recharge. So think about what that means to you, and I'll see if I can find you and get you on the video this year. Welcome to the 149th Conference of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. Isn't it great to be back together? We're so happy to be in beautiful San Antonio, deep in the heart of Texas, and we have a great conference planned for you. We'd like to acknowledge the late Nathan Batson for singing our national anthem, and thank Jeremy Whitley for delivering our invocation this morning. And as I just said, our theme for this year's conference is Let's Recharge. And what a wonderful way to recharge. Education, training, and professional development opportunities this week will allow you the chance to recharge yourself personally and professionally. Advancing your knowledge base on the latest best practices and trends is the best way to stay fresh. And that's why you're here. FRI is the IAFC's premier event where leaders convene to gain the best education and networking experience available to improve the ideals of your departments and better serve your communities. The IAFC has had a momentous year with your support and accomplished many things as an organization. The heart of the IAFC is, of course, its members, working through divisions, sections, and committees. And at this time, I would like to recognize them. Would our division board members, section board members, and committee members all stand to be recognized? Thank you. The IAFC is governed by some of the most dedicated and committed leaders in the fire and emergency services around the globe. I would like to ask Chief Ken Stubing, Chief Donna Black, Chief John Butler, and the rest of the IAFC Board of Directors and their partners to please stand and be recognized. Now, since its founding in 1873, the strength of the International Association of Fire Chiefs has always come from its members. Even so, no organization can succeed without strong leadership. And over the decades, many have served as IAFC president. These individuals forever deserve our appreciation and admiration for their contributions to this great organization and the fire service. Would our past presidents in attendance please stand and be recognized? We're extremely proud that Fire Rescue International is the premier fire service leadership conference in the world. Many of you have traveled extremely far to be with us this week. Would all the attendees from outside the United States please stand and be recognized? Let's see how many of you there are. Wow. Thank you. I would like to thank the over 350 members of our armed forces joining us at FRI from the United States Air Force, the Air National Guard, and the Air Force Reserve Command. They are firefighters serving Air Force locations around the world. And while it's our members who make us tick, just as important to the success and effectiveness of the IAFC is the generous support of our partners, sponsors, and exhibitors. Many of the opportunities and initiatives available to us this week and throughout the year would not be possible without the support of our partners. Let us take a moment to acknowledge them, please. It takes a substantial number of resources to host a conference of this size, and we depend on the host city fire department for their support. We are grateful to the San Antonio Fire Department for their incredible partnership in producing this year's FRI. Let's take a look at them in action.
San Antonio Fire Department in EMS.
Sir, my car is on fire off of the Super Target off of Sono.
Trail, it was a car accident right in the
What do
corner.
you see? What's on fire? Over.
Oh my God.
San Antonio Fire.
A rather large, like, semi-truck just hit the power line, and there's sparks flying, and there's someone in that truck.
I've got help on the way over there. They'll be there in just a moment, okay?
All right, thank you.
Incredible. Please join me in a very warm welcome for your host city chief, Fire Chief Charles Hood. That's a long walk.
Good morning. Before I start, Nate Batson's voice, rest in power. He passed this year, and the last time I saw him was singing at one of our firefighters' funerals, so his voice, rest in power. Before I start, I want to thank the men and women of the San Antonio Fire Department, in particular our planning team, for the work that they have done to make this a successful conference already. And I want to thank them. They've been picking you up, taking you where you need to go, making sure that you feel comfortable in this city. So I want to give them a round of applause. It's our time, FRI. It's our time. No matter what your rank, seniority, volunteer, combination, Forest Service, fire-based EMS, Metro Department, law enforcement, or EMS. Your presence in this room today serves testimony that our community and the world, that the unselfishness and your commitment to serving mankind has not lost its appeal. Outside of those who proudly serve in our military, and again, those of you in the military, thank you for your service. But the rest of you, you represent but the rest of you in this room, you represent the last bastions of heroes in a world that's ever changing. And for my fellow B-shifters in here, the word bastion is a noun. It originated in 1590. It's a wall. It's an institution. It's a place, a person, strongly defending or upholding attitudes or activities. It is us, and it is our time. Our climate, our society, our environment, and pure evil have and will continue to challenge each and every one of us. Incidents that are reminiscent of Hollywood movies, they're playing out in our communities, on our streets on a daily basis, including mine. As I look out in this audience, and I know so many of you, I see professionalism. I see dedication. I see the commitment, the strength, and the resiliency. I see resourcefulness, and I see the credibility of real-world incident commanders in this room. We own the most important decentralized form of government that there is in existence. It's a fire station. It's our time to own the responsibility of leading our folks, both uniform and civilian. It's our time to manage human behaviors through public education and community risk reduction activities. It's our time to make the built-up environment as safe as possible through fire prevention enforcement. And it's our time to provide sustainable added value emergency response. It's our time to provide for the safety and wellness and the resiliency of a diversified workforce. And it's our time to take ownership over everything that impacts these missions. My leadership philosophy, it started as a captain on Engine 18, Phoenix Fire Department, and it's to take care of my troops. And so it's to provide the highest level of safety and wellness and a round-trip ticket for our members, and that has never changed. And that means that our folks show up mentally prepared, emotionally fit, physically fit to do one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Customer service, again, and it is internal and it is external. But the internal part, it is human to human. You have to take care of your folks so they can go out and take care of the citizens or the residents, whatever you call them in your community. We call them residents. A quote that I use. Everybody's got a quote. I know there's some Packer fans here. I know Jim Johnson's in the back from Wisconsin. And Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi coached the Packers in a turbulent time. Unfortunately, some of those turbulent times we see every single day now. Lombardi's quote was, "I don't necessarily have to like my players and associates, but as their leader, I must love them. Love is loyalty. Love is teamwork. Love respects the dignity of the individual. This is the strength of any organization." That's what Vince Lombardi said. It's my personal belief that a leader who cannot love is not capable of true leadership. Love is not mushy. It doesn't mean that you're relinquishing any power or authority. Love doesn't make you weak. Love means you value your followers. Love allows you to make just decisions. Love permits you to be humble and forgive and receive forgiveness and heal wounds. Love allows you to put your ego in check. And there's some smart people in this room, but as my old boss used to say, Alan Brunacini, egos eats brains. So listen to people this week. It's our time to understand that we own the trust of the people we serve, and they're going to call us on the worst days of their lives. Most of them have never seen a firefighter or a paramedic. Do they expect miracles? Yes, they do. We all in this room realize that the result may not be what they see on television, but they should expect from us professionalism in our response, compassion, comfort, and last but not leastly, respect. We must also realize that statistically, each and every one of us in this room is going to call 911 in our lifetimes, our families' lifetimes. It's our time, FRI. The trust of the people we protect will always be our strongest ally, our strongest advocate. Don't ever take it for granted. Don't ever lose it. It is my hope that you are safe throughout this and that you learn something. May God bless you. Thank you for coming to San Antonio. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce our city manager, Eric Walsh. Eric Walsh began serving the city as a city manager in 2019. Eric oversees 13,000 employees. He manages an annual budget of $3 billion and serves 1.5 million residents of this historically significant community. Prior to being appointed to city manager, he served as deputy city manager, my direct boss, and has been an integral part of this organization for 27 years. He's compassionate, he's caring, he's inspirational. He's been my boss since I got here, and he sat on my interview and mean-mugged me the whole time. We spent a lot of time in foxholes together, and I just want to bring him out, but I'm so honored to have him as my boss and even more humble to have him as my friend, Eric Walsh.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief Hood. The Chief and I have worked together for 15 years, almost 16 years. But who's counting, right, Charles? And over that time, I've seen him shape our fire department, the San Antonio Fire Department, into a world-class, all-hazards department that I'm proud to call our own, San Antonio's. Every 2 years, the city of San Antonio does a community survey. And we started doing it in the early 2000s. Really gauge customer feedback, citizen feedback about the city, about services, about departments. We were scheduled to do it in the spring of 2020, but put a pause on that, and we resumed this year. 2 weeks ago, I got the results, and we hired an independent survey company that does this in other major cities around the country. And 2 weeks ago, I got the results, and proud, with over 13,000 employees and what I would consider a full-service city, we saw the largest jump in citizen satisfaction with the city across the board, even animal care services, even code compliance, even public works. But can anybody guess, and you probably know, because I'm looking at a room full of firefighters. You know, the top of the chain every year since we started, and they actually increased 96% satisfaction with the San Antonio Fire Department. And I'll talk a little bit about why that's important to our community as well as probably your communities. It's my honor here to welcome you this morning to the City of San Antonio and Fire Rescue International 2022. On behalf of the City of San Antonio, I'd like to thank the International Association of Fire Chiefs for bringing us together, bringing you to the Alamo City. We've got participants from all over the world arriving from as far away as Japan and Australia, and we're glad all of you made the journey to our great city. In addition, we're honored to have U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas and U.S. Fire Administrator Dr. Lori Moore Morrell in attendance with us today. Chief Hood told me earlier that Dr. Moore Morrell spent about 6 hours with one of our downtown engine companies, so I hope that it was an enjoyable experience and that they kept you busy and fed you well at Fire Station 4. If you're a fire chief, an EMS chief, a chief officer, a company officer, this is your conference. And the last time I spoke to a group this large in this room was to a group of city managers, so nobody get nervous, but this is your conference. Since 1873, the International Association of Fire Chiefs has provided a forum for fire and emergency service leaders to exchange ideas, develop professionally, uncover the latest products. Your profession will continue to evolve like it always has. As Chief Hood said, it's one of those bastions of service that the community expects, whether you're in the 7th largest city in the country or you're in a township in the middle of the country. What we've seen here, probably not unlike what you've seen, is that it's not all about fires. Now, that video you saw a second ago, the chief gave his proposed budget presentation to the city council yesterday, and we showed that video. And as an old college football player, that's a good video to watch before you play the game. And it always sets the tone, but it's not all about fires. The fire service and emergency medical services are the forefront and the front line of natural disasters, human tragedies. They're access to care for large segments of our communities. They deal with mental health issues, and they found themselves on the front line of public health over the last 2.5 years. The service will continue to evolve. The community expects it. Chief Hood likes to call the fire department at times the urban Peace Corps, because sometimes folks just want to call 911 if they're lonely, right? And they need a little bit of help. That will always be there. And at 96%, it is something that is highly valued here in this city of 1.5 million people. So, take advantage of the exhibits the vendors are setting up downstairs. There are a lot of technology, new technologies down there, and new products. As I mentioned, Chief Hood is going through his proposed budget process that'll roll out over the next month. Many of you go through that process. I mean, it's important to make sure that your departments are trained professionally, have the latest equipment and the latest procedures in terms of how to deal with your communities. For your convenience, throughout the convention center and downtown, members of the San Antonio Fire Department and Visit San Antonio are available to you. Stop, introduce yourself, but don't hesitate to ask any information or assistance you might need. So on behalf of the City of San Antonio, thank you again for coming. Welcome to the Alamo City.
Thank you so much, Chief Hood and Manager Walsh. And at this time, I'm pleased to introduce from Halifax, Nova Scotia, IAFC President and Chairman of the Board, Chief Ken Stubing.
Hello,
And bonjour, it is so good to be in front of you in person this year. Welcome to FRI 2022. Fellow members, partners, colleagues, guests, it is certainly my distinct honor and pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of your board of directors, our staff, in this State of the IAFC address. The International Association of Fire Chiefs is strong, out front, respected, relevant, leading, and ready to serve our members. We continue to provide leadership, education, advocacy for the fire and emergency service. We have an engaged membership, competent and capable staff, and never have we demonstrated more the importance of our voice and our mission than we have over the last 2 years. Before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge our staff for making this conference possible. I am so proud of all of them for bringing this event together with such a lean team. I know they have worked and continue to work tirelessly to make this event enjoyable and meaningful for all of you here today. Please join me in a round of applause for all our staff to thank them for what they do each and every day in making FRI 2022 happen. It's safe to say that the past 2 years have been a challenge. As first responders, and as simply human beings, the COVID-19 pandemic and its social and economic consequences continue to impact all of us. And while guidelines are relaxing and public attention turns elsewhere, it is still a very real issue for those on the front lines. Would all of you please give yourselves and your fellow attendees a round of applause for your singular and collective leadership through our shared pandemic response. And through it all, the IAFC board and our members and our staff have remained out front, providing service and advocacy for our members. We continue to work closely with our partner organizations to help chart a path for our members and everyone involved. As you might know, the IAFC was dealt a sharp blow by the pandemic. The cancellation of all in-person events led to a drastic shortfall in our revenue. But the board and staff were able to pivot quickly to revise budgets and spending. Our treasurer, Chief Locke, worked closely with staff and Cordia, our financial partner, to ensure the board of directors had the information they needed to weather this financial crisis. This included changing our governance strategy. You will hear in our treasurer's report, coming up tomorrow, that we are now depositing money back into our net assets again. About a month ago, our CEO, Rob Brown, working closely with our treasurer and Cordia, informed the board that they have researched a relief program with the Consolidated Appropriations Act, which expanded eligibility to organizations that had received a payroll protection plan relief and had also suffered significant reduction of revenue or a partial or complete shutdown based on a civil authority order. If the IAFC submissions are approved, and we believe they will be, the IAFC could be reimbursed nearly $1 million. Because of the hard work put in, I am happy to announce that the IAFC has made great strides to rebound and continues to grow stronger each day. We have had the opportunity to work I've had the opportunity to work closely daily with Rob for close to 2 years and rely heavily on his counsel. And I'm happy to say our board of directors have just renewed his relationship with the IAFC for another 3 years. Congratulations, Chief Brown, and thank you for your service. The Corona Task Force was stood up by President Ludwig and led by Chief John Sinclair, a former IAFC president and long-standing member of the EMS section. The task force is comprised of international talent, including IAFC members and staff, medical experts, labor, and industry partners. During the height of the pandemic, they met twice weekly to share lessons learned and valuable information with our members through many forums, including the very popular webinars. The task force also provided data and advice to the IAFC government relations team, which continues to advocate for our members and their departments with the government. The task force was a great example of leadership and what we can achieve when we work together. I am so excited to announce that with the support of the board, we are looking to transition the COVID-19 task force into a permanent committee to research emerging diseases moving forward. Stay tuned for more information in the months ahead. Thank you, Chief Sinclair, and to our new medical director, Dr. James Augustine, for your leadership, and certainly to all the task force members for your incredible service over the last 2 years. Besides continuing to advocate for the historical SAFER and AFG grant programs, the IFC's payroll protection application, the IFC's government relations team has continued to advocate for protecting the 4.9 gigahertz band, which is currently stayed, and also the next generation 911 and Z access for cell phone locations. Our board has been busy over the last year working with all our stakeholders to update our strategic directive and to ensure we stay focused on our members' needs and remain relevant in these changing times. After so much time dealing with the pandemic and doing business differently, I'm proud to say that the board of directors has supported a plan to refresh our IFC strategic plan. As the IFC and the world starts to move beyond COVID, it makes sense to refresh our vision, our mission, and our values, and rebuild the IFC in a way that ensures that we focus on the strategic initiatives and our members' needs so that we can stay relevant to them and out front in emergency services. Following last year's Fire Rescue International, the board engaged our partner, Bob Norton from Tenzinga, who graciously agreed to facilitate our strategic planning process. Over the last year, the process has included several focus groups that have been randomly selected from our members from each division to garner their feedback. The board has met multiple times to review the feedback and invited stakeholders from our divisions and sections to review the strategic directives to make sure that we stay focused on our members' needs and remain relevant in these changing times. I'm happy to say that after a year of work, we have a draft strategic plan that the board has unanimously supported that will help guide us over the next 3 to 5 years. This is just a small example of some of what the IFC has done over the last couple years during this period of change. As I make this address, like last year, our members are responding to wildfires across North America and, quite frankly, around the globe. The effort with many of our partners to combat firefighter-related mental and physical illness continues. The safety of our first responders on highways remains a concern. New challenges seem to appear almost daily. That's why, almost 150 years after its founding, the International Association of Fire Chiefs is more relevant than ever before. We, together, as the IFC, are strong, out front, respected advisors, relevant and evolving because of you, our members, our staff, and our partners. In closing, I would like to thank our members involved in our IFC divisions, our sections, our committees, our task forces, our councils, as well as our tremendous staff and our board of directors. Without all of you, the IFC could not have made it through this past year. You are why we exist. Having worked with many of you over the years and witnessing the incredible efforts that we have achieved together, I'm extremely optimistic about the future of the IFC and proud to be part of such a great organization. Together, we are better. Stay safe. Enjoy your time in San Antonio. Thank you, and merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief Stubing, for your leadership. Now it's time to remember. Each year at FRI, we take a moment to honor the memories of our brothers and sisters who have died in the line of duty, especially those who have died since we last gathered. Would you please join me as we pay tribute to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community? May the memories of those heroes lost continue to be a blessing and an inspiration as we seek to follow them in their footsteps. Pierce Manufacturing is a longtime supporter and friend of the IAFC. They're a Five Bugle partner that invests in varied events and programs. Here at Fire Rescue International, they're a Diamond Gem partner, have a large exhibit space, and you'll see some great branding. They also support the Symposium in the Sun Conference and VCOS Hoses and Helmets, which supports educational programming. Pierce Manufacturing is also the proud sponsor of the IAFC Fire Chief of the Year Award, which we are pleased to present at this time. Please welcome the President of Pierce Manufacturing, Mr. Jim Johnson. Of course.
Well, good morning. Yeah, on behalf of Pierce Manufacturing and the 15,000+ team members of our parent company, Oshkosh Corporation, we're certainly honored to be here today and share with you as we recognize this year's Fire Chief of the Year honorees. And the two gentlemen that we're recognizing today certainly led their departments and the fire service through some very tumultuous times. And they pushed against boundaries and barriers that I think a lot of us thought would be insurmountable, looking back 5 years at what we may be facing. But each of these gentlemen set new standards. And it reminds me of a story that we've rallied around in our own company as we've faced some challenges the past couple years. And allow me to share it with you. It's a brief story, but I think it's relevant to what we're going through today. And it's a story about track and field. So if you go back to the 1800s, turn of the last century, it was thought to be impossible for any human to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Doctors, physicians, trainers, the athletes themselves just figured, can't be done. But on a cold, windy day in Oxford, England, in May of 1954, a young medical student named Roger Bannister ran a mile in 3:59.7 seconds. Obviously not ideal conditions that day, but he broke this barrier. And you might think, well, that's great. He broke the record. Good for him. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is while this had been deemed impossible for 50 or 60 years, once he broke that record, 45 days later, a mere 45 days later, an Australian named John Landy broke Bannister's record by 1.5 seconds, and he ran a mile in 3:57.9. A couple months later, a half dozen runners had run a sub-4-minute mile, and by golly, a year later, 3 runners did it in the same race. And today, obviously, it's commonplace. So the point of the story is that once one person set that new standard and broke the record, this invisible barrier that everyone thought was impossible, suddenly everybody else was able to do it too. So do you think these other runners were suddenly faster and stronger and quicker? Probably not. And so if you look at that and we apply that story to our own lives, professional or personal, myself included, obviously, so many times what holds us back in life is not what we're capable of or what our capacity is. It's up here. And it's self-imposed boundaries. And I just think it's a good lesson for all of us to consider in the times that we face and are going through today. So our team has rallied around that story, and hopefully it has some meaning for you as well. So we are going to start by honoring the Volunteer Fire Chief of the Year. Chief Marshall Turbeville joined the Geyserville Volunteer Fire Company as a firefighter in 1995 while still an undergraduate at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. In 1998, he earned a degree in civil engineering, then a BS degree in forestry, and he joined Cal Fire in 2000, quickly being promoted to engineer, then captain and battalion chief in 2009. Today, he is the fire chief of the Northern Sonoma County Fire Protection District. Chief Turbeville has led his community's response to the devastating wildfires in California, including the Tubbs, the Pocket, the Kincaid, and Walbridge fires. After frontline experience fighting these fires, Chief Turbeville determined the status quo response was inadequate, and thus worked to develop new strategies focused on prevention, preparedness, and mitigation methods to save life, property, and the environment. Some notable accomplishments include implementation of a vegetation mitigation measure and community preparedness planning program, including the formation of the Northern Sonoma COPE, or Communities Organized to Prepare for Emergencies. Also, leading programs including pre-attack maps, community wildfire protection plans, FireWise designation, evacuation planning and drills, and education in areas such as burning, grazing, generator use, defensible space, and home hardening. Through his unwavering commitment to his community and dedication to his work, Chief Turbeville exemplifies the standards exhibited by a Fire Chief of the Year. So please join me in recognizing Chief Marshall Turbeville as the Volunteer Fire Chief of the Year for 2022. Chief? Okay, now we are going to honor the Career Fire Chief of the Year. Chief Gary Ludwig serves as the Fire Chief for the Champaign, Illinois Fire Department and boasts 45 years of fire, rescue, and EMS experience. He is also the past president and chairman of the board of the IAFC, serving during the 2019-2020 term. He holds a master's degree in business and management and has been a licensed paramedic for 43 years. He's written over 500 articles for professional fire and EMS publications and is the author of 5 books and has been invited to speak at over 400 professional conferences and seminars. He's also testified before committees of the U.S. House of Representatives. During his term as IAFC president, Chief Ludwig was faced with the crisis of the worldwide pandemic, and he led the fire service through this most difficult time. He addressed the many challenges facing the fire service, including the crisis of a PPE shortage, testing, quarantining, and the deaths of firefighters from the virus. He established a 24-hour round-the-clock operations center at the IAFC to start a fusion center for data and information. Some of Chief Ludwig's other notable accomplishments include establishment of an economic task force to help fire chiefs and departments navigate through the reduced tax revenues caused by the pandemic. He worked directly with Congress on pandemic-related funding and vaccine availability for emergency services and service personnel. And of the 5 books he published 2 of them during his 2019-2020 term as IAFC president. That's just remarkable. So regarded as an expert in the fire service, Chief Ludwig's leadership embodies what it means to be a Fire Chief of the Year. Please join me in recognizing and honoring Fire Chief Gary Ludwig as the Career Fire Chief of the Year for 2022.
Thank you, Jim, and congratulations to our Fire Chief of the Year winners. Let's give them another round of applause, please. And it's now my pleasure to introduce today's sponsor, OnStar and General Motors. I'm excited about a great discussion this morning about the 2022 EV First Responder Training Program.
OnStar, we see them.
Okay, mother and child in vehicle. Mother is unable to exit the vehicle. Injuries are unknown.
Thank you, OnStar.
My son, is he okay?
Your son's fine.
Thank you. There's something in the road.
It's okay, you're safe now. We got you.
Our guest today, Mitch Pedersen, is a member of the Emergency Services Outreach Team at OnStar, and prior to this role, Mitch retired from a 28-year career as a firefighter paramedic, proudly serving in a number of roles and ranks, including the last 6 years of his career as the fire chief. Joe McLean is a staff engineer in the Global Product Safety and Systems Organization of General Motors and is currently leading GM's battery electric vehicle training effort for first and second responders across North America. Prior to joining GM, he had a very successful career in the U.S. Army as a paratrooper, helicopter pilot, aviation officer, and leader for more than 24 years. While at GM, Joe has also helped lead innovative safety solutions for automated driving systems, as well as the release of the publicly available rescue documentation for EVs. Please welcome Mitch and Joe. It's a long walk.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Monica.
Nice to see you, Mitch.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Joe.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to see you.
You bet.
All right. GM and OnStar have partnered with the Illinois Fire Service Institute, IAFC, a nationally recognized leader in first responder training and life safety research, to deliver battery electric vehicle education directly to communities across the nation at no cost. They're providing instruction and best practices on how to most effectively support emergency situations involving electric vehicles. Very exciting. So, Joe, let me start with you.
You bet.
Why is GM doing this? What's the history behind it and the work you're doing now?
Great question. So what we're looking to do is raise awareness, raise a level of understanding for the first responders as well as all the motoring public on how seriously we're taking this move to electrification. We drew the inspiration. Some of you all may remember back about 10 plus years ago, we did a Volt tour. The Chevy Volt was the first plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and we went around the country and talked about that, and we did a bunch of extrication exercises, but raising awareness and giving the information that's already publicly available is our goal.
And so, Mitch, who is this training available for? First and second responders and others?
Yeah, so we've developed the training specifically for first responders, so fire, EMS, law enforcement. We certainly include the dispatch and 911 communications personnel because they're going to have that first interaction. We've also built into the program information important for our towing and salvage operators because they're going to interact with the vehicles as well as part of our incident scenes.
Mm-hmm. But is this freely available to the public as well?
This is not a public program. This
not
is
a public
specifically designed for first responders. We have some information in there that's not typically publicly available. We think it's important for the first responders to have it in their hands.
Sure. So, Joe, what's the time commitment and what does the training entail? What's the format of this?
So what we've done is designed, again, with the Illinois Fire Service Institute, 4-hour block of instruction, so each session is 4 hours. We typically, when we go to a location, it's a morning session and an afternoon session, but the trainees come in and they have face-to-face interactions with a group of subject matter experts, both GM and IFSI, but they also have access to products. So we bring vehicles that have been involved in crashes and a fire and give them an awareness by touching the product and actually getting to understand some of the advances, some of the things that we've considered already in our many decades of dealing with electrification, but we think it's a unique way to raise awareness and give people the information they desire.
Yeah, that's great. But what if someone wants to attend and can't do it in person? So is there a way to access the training?
So right now the training is in person only. So we are focused on giving that information, that opportunity for the first, second responders to have face-to-face interaction with the subject matter experts, and something they may not have ever seen before, a sneak peek at what's coming down the road, with our Ultium product. But if people are interested in attending any of our trainings, please go to the website, stop by our booth. But there's also training that General Motors has given a grant to the National Fire Protection Association, and that training is typically, people would pay $20 to $25 for that online training, but General Motors has provided a grant to give that training, again, from an accredited body, the National Fire Protection Association, free of charge, and we're really trying to target the rural and underserved and volunteer communities.
With that real hands-on experience.
So our training is hands-on, but
Yes.
certainly if they can't attend in person, they can go to the NFPA's website and do that training free of charge as well.
Is there a code?
There is a code,
Yeah.
so the nfpa.org/EV, and you just enter in the code GMEV1. There's, grant money there for people to take the training free of charge. So if you can't make the in-person direct dynamic delivery of training that we're doing, please go and take the NFPA training as well.
And we can get that code and all the other information at your booth
Absolutely.
later. We have to memorize that, right?
No, don't need to memorize it.
And the program will be divided into both live presentations and other training formats. Let's just expand on that a little bit more.
So the 4-hour block of instruction, again, we have an introduction. We give a history of battery electric vehicles. A lot of people don't know that we've been doing this for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And then we break each one of the groups into 4 equal groups, and we rotate round robin style. Again, face-to-face interaction in small groups, breakout areas, again, touching product, talking to people like Mitch and several other subject matter experts from IFSI and GM and OnStar, but really focusing on that dynamic instruction and face-to-face interaction.
Mitch, you and I were talking yesterday about how much travel you're going to be doing over the next year. So give us an idea of the course and what happens.
Well, like Joe said, the goal was to develop a program that was dynamic and hands-on. So a general program, the 4 hours, the attendees will be together just for a short period of time. They're broken up into 4 groups, and each of those groups rotate through 4 breakout sessions that give them an opportunity to interact not only with the subject matter experts, but also see the products that we bring with us, get their hands on some of the things that, quite honestly, you probably don't have access to anywhere else. So we bring those, and it's a good opportunity. If you're interested in hazardous materials, you're on a hazmat team, and you have questions about the battery chemistry, those things, we bring somebody from the battery lab, and it's an opportunity for you to face-to-face discuss those topics with them.
Oh, that's nice. So I'm fascinated by the design of the BEV or BEV. They're purpose-built vehicles. Talk about the Ultium technology and the future of battery technology. There's an app as well that we can look at in your booth.
There is, great. Yeah, so we're committed to this process of electrification. You may have heard the term Ultium, but Ultium is really what General Motors has looked at, the sophistication and the maturation of many of the battery systems, but Ultium product will be in any number of battery electric vehicles, whether they're ground, surface-based, air-based, sea-based, railroads. I mean, there's a future of transportation that a lot of people haven't even wrapped their heads around yet. But the idea of Ultium products is really the core product of what we're pushing for the next generation. We've got an opportunity for people in this room, attendees to the conference, to come take a look at what we're envisioning as an alternative presentation of information. Certainly, you can go look at emergency response guides, you can look at rescue sheets, all in two-dimensional formats. You know, it may be something that you reference in your training, it may be something you reference when you're on scene, but what we're imagining is partnering with OnStar and some other innovative technologies, looking at a way that you might get information en route to a scene, supplanted with, you know, or complemented with information from Next Gen 911 and representations of the vehicle in 3 dimensions, so you could refresh your memory on where those batteries are and some of the high voltage components may be.
So Mitch, talk to us about the collaboration and partnership between OnStar and GM.
Yeah, so to get this program off the ground, and it's required a lot of collaboration, both internally at General Motors with multiple divisions inside General Motors, including OnStar, and also externally with the Illinois Fire Service Institute and subject matter experts from the fire service. We've tried to bring in as many parties as possible to make the program worthwhile.
And so, Joe, the NFPA has led its own education efforts around EVs with 300,000 first responders, but there are estimates that there are more than 800,000 additional members of the community that do need further training.
In fact, that's absolutely the case. The NTSB released a report last year that many of you have probably heard about, a lot of interest in electrified vehicles, but they identified a need. There was a lack of comprehensive training for first responders around these battery electric vehicles. We think this scratches that itch in a great way, but we also want to show our commitment and a leadership stance, working collaboratively with industry, both fire service, the emergency services, and those communities, as well as across industry. So we've been at this for a number of decades, and we're looking to inform and tell everybody how committed and really proud to be here and showing our commitment to electrification.
This is really good stuff. Where can we find out more about the training program?
The training program itself, the website is a long one, but it's gmevfirstresponder.training.com. We've got all the locations that we're right now committed to through the end of this year, and we've got a list of resources and other things that people can look at, NFPA emergency response guides, the SAE documents that reference best practices and recommended practices for first and second responders. We've got a whole bunch of information out there, but please come to our booth and talk to us. We'd be happy to talk more.
So that's gmevfirstresponder.training.com.
Indeed.
But you can come to the booth, meet these guys. Thank you so much, Mitch and Joe,
Thank you,
for being with us today.
Appreciate it, Monica.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is no stranger to the International Association of Firefighters, having served the IAFF for 26 years and led an international data institute and research team, authoring reports that have changed the face of fire and EMS deployment in countries throughout the world. As the current U.S. Fire Administrator, Dr. Lori Moore Merrill leads the federal government efforts to support and strengthen the fire and emergency medical services, EMS, and stakeholders to prepare for, prevent, mitigate, and respond to all hazards. Dr. Lori Moore Merrill, welcome.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Good to see you, Monica. Good morning, everyone. I am thrilled to be with you this morning, and quite a full room at that. So what an exciting time to be together, and it's been an exciting morning already. So I think we're going to get some slides up here. I'm going to wait for those. I like to have pictures. I know you like pictures. And so we can talk to the pictures and give you some things to remember. So as I said, I'm really glad to be with you today and to talk a little bit about USFA and what we've been doing together. So I've been on the job for 10 months now. It seems a lot longer. But 10 months, and it's a very exciting proposition to be able to facilitate what I think and you believe is much needed change within the USFA, so that USFA can rise to be the leader of the whole of the fire service and its appropriate place. And that's what we've been working on. You know, we sit inside FEMA, as many of you know, and FEMA has a very distinctive mission. Their mission is to help people before, during, and after disasters. An incredibly noble mission, and they are fantastic at it. And we have a fantastic FEMA administrator, by the way, who's a firefighter, in case you didn't know. Deanne Criswell is a great supporter of the fire service and of USFA. USFA, however, within FEMA, has a very different mission, though parallel, but different. And I think it's important to note that, because our mission, as many of you already know, we support and strengthen our fire and emergency medical services responders to prepare for, prevent, mitigate, and respond to all hazards. That's the mission of USFA. And within our logo, the 4 stars that represent that, you might notice, if anyone knew that the 4 stars represented 4 bullets, which I learned after I got there, by the way, they have changed a little. Because one of the first things that I did was to go back through our legislation and have a look at why USFA was created and all of the legislative mandates that it's supposed to be carrying out. And those legislative mandates are now captured correctly in the 4 stars. And so what we have is fire, and we're adding EMS training to that, because don't you think if 75% of what we do is EMS, we probably ought to address that a little better at this level. And so fire and EMS training, research, our National Fire Data Center, and I'll tell you more about that in a second, and community risk reduction. Now that's the one that really changed. It used to just say public awareness. And I'm not sure that that was a good title for what we're actually supposed to be doing. Because if you read the legislation, it's pretty detailed, and it's almost the exact same description that we all use for CRR today. And so we're updating a lot of our materials to reflect those. So what I'd like to do with you this morning is give you a little bit of the state of the fire service at an address, and I can tell you that we still have a fire problem in America. America is still burning. You all know that. It's not news to you. But many times we've said over the years that our fire problem is down. Fires are down, because that's what our data said. Fires are not down, and our data are wrong. And we'll talk more about that. But even this year, we've had 1,400, and I said approximately, because these slides were done just about 4 or 5 days ago. Since then, we're at 1,464 fire deaths since January 1st. We're on track to hit the 3,000 mark this year, just like we do every year in history, recent history, because of the holidays. So our trajectory is like it is in every other year. When are we going to stop? 170, it's actually 180 children, and 345, that's up to over the last 4 days. And so we still have a fire problem. You all witnessed in January of this year, as we had the Bronx fire, where we had 17 people were killed, including 8 children. We had the Philly fire, where we had another 12, including 8 children. These multiple fatality fires got great media coverage for a little while. But what changed? What were the lessons learned, and what changed in the public arena, in the decision-maker arena? We all know, but we have to stop talking just to ourselves. We've got to figure out a way to reach others. We also still have a wildfire problem. Across the country, you see it. The fires are burning much more intense, reaching a lot more acreage, and there are multiple of them. And so we have a wildfire problem. Climate change is contributing to that. Drought, the extreme heat is intensifying that. We also know that in the past several years, because of that climate change, as I just said, these are increasing. One of the things that I want to point out to you is that you notice I've said wildfire so far this morning. I didn't say anything about wild land. And I did that on purpose, because I need you to be talking about the wildfire problem. If we keep saying the wildland fire problem, do you know what happens every time we say that? DOI and ag get more money. We are the structural environment within Homeland Security, within FEMA, within USFA, and our people respond to the interface. Now, many of you and your people are cross-trained into wildland. I get that. That's the trees and vegetation. But our real problem is when that fire hits the interface of the built environment. We have to talk about it directly because our decision makers don't know the difference. They hear wildland, and wildland is dealt with in other organizations or other agencies. We have to talk about the wildfire problem. You see, the Marshall Fire in Colorado was not a wildland fire. It was a suburban fire that became a wildfire and burned 1,080 homes. That's a wildfire. So if you're going to say wildland, would you just go on and say interface? Right? That's how we have to do this. We've got to make sure that our decision makers understand the difference. It's not a problem. Trees have been burning for 100 years. Our problem is when we begin to clear those trees and build homes in that geography. You see, it wasn't the trees that were burning, it was the geography and the location. And to think that those homes that we build in that location are not going to burn, we're kidding ourselves. So we have to build those fire-adapted communities, and we, the fire service, have to be involved in that because that's where we engage. So we have to talk about wildfire. We've got to talk about our training, too. Because, yes, we can cross-train into wildland, but are we training our suburban and urban firefighters for the WUI? Are we training for that wildland-urban interface? Some of you are, but most of you are not. And it is now a nationwide problem. It's a different paradigm from one home on fire to 6 homes on the same street on fire. Very different tactics, very different strategies. And so we have to train. And NFPA tells us, yes, most of you are getting gear now for that, but you still don't have the training. And that is something that we have to continue to address. So we have at the USFA released just this year, in cooperation with our partners at DOI and agriculture, and certainly the IAFC, our WUI report, the issues and the resolutions. And so if you haven't seen this, please go and look for it, download it, because in there is this list of items that we need to be talking to decision makers about. And so the WUI report is available to you. I want to tell you about a couple of different grants that you may not know about. Some of you may know. How many of you have heard of FMAG grants before? Fire mitigation, not enough of you. Okay, fire mitigations assistance grants. These are the grants that happen when your regional fire administrators, if we've got a wildfire, and it seems that it is going to grow, and the threat and risk analysis show that the potential here is that this is going to become a wildfire, then they can declare an FMAG or a fire mitigations assistance grants. That means all of these things on this list can be covered. If you don't know your regional FEMA administrator, we want to fix that. I've met with the regional administrators, and many of them do not know their fire chiefs in their areas, and you need to be communicating with each other. Because when you need resources, when your people are going to be responding, when you're engaging, and folks, we know it's a nationwide problem, you need to know about these grants because they cover quite a few things. The other thing I want to tell you about is the BRIC grants. How many of you have heard of the BRIC grants? Again, not enough. So Dave Paulison, you know that name, right? Dave Paulison calls me and he says, Lori, you have got to tell the fire chiefs they got to be applying for these. So BRIC grants, and the president just awarded or added much more to this pot of money, but building resilience in communities, particularly focusing on those fire-adapted communities. So if you have expansion into what was forested area, you need to be applying for these. Because you can see on the screen, resilient landscapes, fire-adapted communities, and safe and effective wildfire response. Well, that's squarely in your wheelhouse, is it not? BRIC grants, look them up. There's a lot more money, orders of magnitude greater than an AFG. You need to know about these grants. These are the 3 working groups within the federal government on wildfire. So we have what is called the Wildfire Leadership Council. And so with that, we participate, USFA participates in that. That also includes our state and local communities. We have the Interagency Working Group, which is all federal agencies that have anything to do with wildfire or wildland fire. And then the new Wildfire Commission that many of you have heard about, that was just put in legislation. It was passed in December of last year, and we just have started up the commission. All of the members have been selected. Now, I know you can't read this slide. It's color-coded on purpose. But I want to just tell you, because I got a lot of phone calls from this group going, why do we not have representation on this commission? So I think it's important that you understand the legislation itself, because we've all been saying wildland for so long and just cutting it short, not saying interface, and not saying some other words that we need to describe the real problem. A lot of the people were listed in the legislation, right, had to do with wildland. And so these were very specific positions that were listed in the legislation. We were able to find enough in the legislation. We were able to find enough caveats in the legislation to add some of our folks. Bob Roper is one of them. Many of you know that name. Jim Hubbard is another. So we were able to get them in the innovation side, or the interface basically focus. And we've added a primary and a secondary fire marshal. So Mariana out of Oregon and Mike Morgan out of Colorado are on this commission. So you do have a voice. The three leads are the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Interior, and the FEMA Administrator. Each of them have designees, and USFA is the designee for the FEMA seat. And so we will be leading this commission. We want input. Subject matter experts are going to be added, so you have every opportunity. Simply go to the booth, let the guys know that you want to participate, you want to be an SME, you want to contribute to the commission. It is completely open. We want your input. And so I wanted you to know about that. One of the other things that have been happening is that FEMA has released its building codes and standards materials, and they did a lot of research in building materials, codes, standards, and released its beautiful documents. One of the caveats, however, is that it's on primarily wind and water. There's not a lot, almost nothing, about fire codes in this. So USFA is coming alongside. We're going to do the exact same thing, working with the NFPA and the ICC, do the same research, look at putting out a very parallel release on fire building codes and standards that can come out from FEMA and USFA as well. And so that is a document. If you're interested, you want to make sure that you see that. One of the other things that is happening is that USFA is mandated by legislation to release a report to Congress on firefighter suicide. Now, as you all know, in the fire service, we have no way of tracking firefighter suicides. Now, we know they happen, they're reported in the media often, we talk to each other about it, but as far as having a tracking list that is secure and detailed and has good information, we don't have it. So that's what that report says. If you need us to do this going forward, USFA has to have the appropriate resources to do it, because we don't. And so we're designing the database that can do this. We're working hand in hand with the NFFF, Fallen Firefighters Foundation, to figure out a way that we can best deliver on this. But we needed Congress to understand that right now that's not happening, and it should be happening. And so I wanted you to understand that. You know, and one of the things, just behavioral health before we go into this, we should not ever be talking about suicide without talking about behavioral health. We don't talk about post without talking about pre. We have to have those interventions, and so we are standing, obviously, to work with you on our behavioral health, the PTS situations, all of those things. UFSA is standing up resources, and will continue to be ready to stand with you in that regard. We have to talk about cancer as well. These are scourges still on the fire service. We know we lose a lot of our people to cancer. And so we're working continuously with NIOSH. A little bit of bad news is that since 2018, when that bill was signed to stand up the National Firefighter Cancer Registry, here we are in 2022 and it's still not live. That's a problem. And so they're already up for reauthorization, and we need to figure out, as the fire service, what we need to do to get this active. And so as part of our modernization, we're working very closely with NIOSH to figure out how USFA and the new data system is going to contribute to this, because we have to track cancer. If we don't do this on a longitudinal type research, we are never going to be able to get ahead of this cancer situation in our ranks. And so I want you to keep watching for that. So where are our priorities in USFA? What are we doing directly that I want to make sure that you are with us and you are walking with us in parallel, and that we are doing these things together? One of them is that we're doing a complete reorganization within USFA. As I said, I went through the legislative intent for the agency and the administration, and we looked at realigning to what USFA is supposed to be, and that is part of this reorganization. And so we're turning what was 3 main directorates into 4. So you're going to see, hopefully by October, so this is being proposed, where we can break out our research and data center out from under National Fire Programs, and it is going to be a standalone. So we're going to stand up a research center and our data center live within USFA. And so realigning, and of course our academy has always been the star of the USFA, and so it will continue to do that. We're going to focus more on the research agenda. You know that this came out just last year, and looking at effective recruitment. I know how many of you are having recruitment issues. We've talked about it already the last couple of days. We're going to be talking about it even more. But looking at the acute and chronic health risk within the fire service, continuing to look at firefighter safety and those underlying demographics and health conditions. We're going to continue to look at the injury and fatalities. And by the way, that is in our legislation. We're supposed to be tracking firefighter injuries. That's simply not occurring. And so that has to be changed. We need to look at risk mitigation, where you have to respond, and again, building resilience as we go along, and also effective communication strategies. And we've already started some on that. I'll talk to you more about that in just a second. You all know that I can't do a presentation without talking about data, right? So you're probably a little surprised I haven't said it more already. But data is a big deal for us. It's a big deal. When I say us, I mean the fire service, because we have to have better data than we have today. You know, we've been operating on a legacy system that was actually built in the 1970s. Last update was in 2000, 2002, when it became web-based. The cloud has been out for 16 years. It's probably time for us to change, don't you think? And so that's what we're doing. We're building a new data system where we can do modernization of INFRS. Not sure we're going to call it INFRS. Probably we're not, because we're standing up a new cloud-based system with new technology where it is an application-based data entry. We're going to reduce greatly the data entry that's done from the field. Firefighters should be cheering in this room right now. But we're going to reduce greatly that input right from the field, because we've established over a long time they're not very good at it, right? And so we have poor data, and a lot of that is system-driven. A lot of that is training on the importance of data. And so we want to make it where we can reduce the barriers for entry, and we make sure all of our departments report to the national data system, because it has now been reduced. So we're going to connect to data that already exists. I won't ask you to put in anything if I can get it somewhere else. So we're going to connect with CADS, we're going to connect with the weather, we're going to connect with Social Vulnerability Index, we're going to connect with USA structures, all of these baseline data elements that can be combined already to give you insights, and then we grab your incident information. And so this is coming, and we're going to be looking at doing this together. So here's some things we have to do. One, we've got to write a new data standard. And so we're well on our way. We met with the heads of the national organizations. They know this is coming. We've had some input already from all of the national organizations. We're going to do must-have information, not nice to know. All right? We're not going to have 500 ways a fire started. This is important. Or 250 ways we dispatch an EMS call. We have to reduce it to the must-have information if we're going to get quality. And so customized dispatch codes is another thing we have to work on. So we're starting to talk with the Next Gen 911 folks. We're going to be talking with the CAD vendors and starting this collaboration. If we can't normalize the data coming from the CAD so that it matches the data we need from the incident, shouldn't they match, don't you think? And so if we can't match that, the normalization process is a painful process. That's why today a lot of our data is just a mess. So these are things we're working on, and then we'll begin transitioning the new departments. The other thing that I'll tell you is that we're going to set this outside the federal government, because we need to be able to change quickly our data elements. And so today, if you have a lithium-ion battery fire, you have no way of entering that. You have an electric car fire, you have no way of entering that. And so we have to be agile. And so we're going to put it outside the federal government and have it managed there, though USFA will stay in control. I told you earlier we've already started working on communication strategies, because often in the fire service we just talk to each other and think we actually accomplished something. If we put out communication and that communication is not heard and action taken, then did communication really take place? I think not. And so it's important that we reach the public with fire safety messaging. So I've called for a new initiative. This has been stood up. It was stood up in May. Every national organization stepped up. We have 22 members of this initiative. Everybody is involved. If you want to be involved at the local level, you're welcome. State level, you're welcome. They meet once a month, and what we do is decide on a theme. Because if the fire service can't come together on our theme and what we're going to talk about, how do we anticipate bringing together the national media and getting people in the public to listen to our messaging? And so we've taken that messaging, we're talking about who is burning. So even though we are dealing with DEI in the fire service and how we hire and how we interact with each other, that for diversity, equity, and inclusion, well, we're looking at the same in who is dying in fires, because it's an equity problem. Over 2/3 of the people dying are poor and people of color. We have to address that. And so how do we do that? Well, we started an initiative for Step Up for Fire Safety. That's the new theme, Step Up for Fire Safety. And we are using a process that we're actually taking from a little book. It's a leadership book from West Point called Be, Know, Do. And it's training for leadership there. And I thought, that will work if we can say, what do we need you to be aware of? Right? If we tell the public, what do you need to be? What do you need to know? Right? You have just a little bit of time, and if we can create some small messaging, and then what do we want them to do? Be, know, do. Pretty simple, huh? And so this is how we're working with this initiative, and I congratulate all of the national orgs who have stepped right up and said, yeah, we're in. And so we're moving forward as the whole of the fire service, and this matters. And so one of the other things I want to tell you about that the national organizations are coming together to do. Many of you are familiar with the Truman Forum that was held in 2019. We've had several other held, and they're usually led by the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation. And it reflects on President Truman's original ask in 1947 to host a conference on the fire problem in this country. Back then, 12,000 people a year were dying. And so this is the conference in 1947 that generated, as you all know, the America Burning Report. The American Burning Report is what led in 1974 to the establishment of the U.S. Fire Administration. In our legislative authorities, the U.S. Fire Administration is supposed to be hosting a national conference on fire. Now, I'm not aware that that's happened. Many of you are, they may know more than I, but in my tenure over 35 years, I'm not aware of such a conference being held by the USFA. So we're going to do it. 75 years after the Truman original conference, we're going to host a presidential roundtable and state of science on fire prevention and control. It's time. It's time that we come together as the whole of the fire service and we have our voice heard. Somebody has to care that almost 1,500 people have died since January 1. Somebody besides us has to care. So we're going to look at that fire problem. We're going to look at equity in housing. Safe and affordable housing should not be a choice. So we're going to look at recruitment. We're going to look at the cancer and behavioral health issues. We're going to look at codes and standards. Why can we not have sprinklers and smoke alarms in our built environment? So these things are going to happen, and we're going to have a very candid conversation. So watch for that. It is coming. I want to tell you that today I'm excited about our path ahead. I'm excited about what you are going to come along with us. We are your U.S. Fire Administration. I am your U.S. Fire Administrator. And I'm looking forward to walking forward with you to meet these challenges. Thank you so much for joining with me today. And now I want to tell you about the next speaker. I could give you his bio, but you can look that up. What I'd rather do is tell you more about the leader of leaders that I've come to know and observe. I was on a meeting with him and DHS, Homeland Security staff, and it's fascinating that Ali, and he likes to be called Ali, by the way, he knows everyone's name, and it's just stunning. And so people are engaging with him and saying, you know, you're just such a personable leader. Why? How can you lead at such a high level and maintain that personal connection? And here's what he said, and this resonated with me, and I think it will with you. He said, stature is horizontal. Responsibility is vertical. I want you to think about that for a moment, because that's leadership. That's connection. That's engaging your people. It is my great honor now to introduce you to the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. Thank you. It's great to see you.
Good morning, and thank you very much. I can't believe she called me Allie. Just kidding. I want to thank Lori, Dr. Moore Merrill, for the kind introduction. I also want to thank Dr. Stubing and to the IAFC for the invitation to join you today. I'm honored to do so. In January of this year, in the Bronx borough of New York City, a raging fire engulfed an apartment building, causing the loss of 17 lives, 8 of whom were children. In late February, firefighters and other first responders carried out heroic rescues during the severe flooding caused by rainfall along Australia's eastern coast. The flooding caused the loss of more than 20 lives and led to the evacuation of more than 60,000 others. 39 people lost their lives in Kentucky a few weeks ago as a result of severe flooding there too. Too many more lost their homes and all that they possessed. Earlier this month, again in New York City, firefighters responded to an apartment blaze caused by the ignition of an electric scooter's lithium-ion battery. The fire killed a 5-year-old child and left their father in critical condition. The challenges we face are more intense, more complex, and more frequent than ever before. The impacts of climate change, severe flooding, heat, fires, and winds are impacting the daily lives of people around the world. New technologies, like lithium-ion batteries, are introducing new risk factors. The work of firefighters and other first responders is more difficult, dangerous, and stressful than ever before. Yet all of you and your colleagues whom you represent today serve your communities and your countries selflessly, bravely, and with honor. You protect us and you save us from harm. You do so at great personal sacrifice and sacrifice to your families. Thank you for everything you do to keep us safe and secure. The sacrifices you make are recognized, but they must also be addressed. First, you must take care of yourselves and those under your charge, and we must do whatever we can to mitigate the risks to which you and those around you are exposed. Those risks are only growing. You are routinely exposed to smoke and other toxic substances, the effects of which are only now beginning to be fully understood. Through the course of your duties, you experience traumatic events that can have lasting impacts. Firefighters and other first responders are on scene at every disaster, every emergency, every active shooter, every instance of civil unrest here and around the world. You are all hazard responders, always on the front lines, in the line of fire, and sometimes under fire. The strains are made only more intense as recruitment and retention challenges are growing and additional pressures are placed on your existing workforces. Lori, United States Fire Administrator Dr. Moore Merrill, is a lifelong proponent of firefighter safety, and I cannot think of another individual more passionate about your wellness. She is committed to ensuring you have the resources you need to improve your safety, health, and fitness. We have a great champion in Lori, and I encourage you to review and share the wellness resources she has helped made available on FEMA's government website. In reviewing your conference agenda, I know that the issue of wellness is top of mind for you too. I was especially struck by the number of wellness courses and variety of them available here. I applaud your focus on this critically important issue of taking care of oneself and of one another. You must have, and you are entitled to, and deserve ample resources to equip you to do your difficult and noble work most effectively. We must ensure you have the best training, equipment, gear, and support possible. One of our key roles in the Department of Homeland Security is to ensure our partners, all of you here today, have everything you need to continue to do your vital work and to stay safe. We're committed to keeping people out of harm's way and, in turn, keeping you safe as well. Through FEMA, we offer training and best practices for both responding to and mitigating the impacts of emergencies and natural disasters. I'm sure you're aware of the many training and education courses offered in person and online through the National Fire Academy. We recognize there's a need, one that extends across the globe, for training and sharing best practices, and we'll take steps to expand our resources to all of our international partners. You might not be aware that the Department of Homeland Security has a large research and development component, our Science and Technology Directorate, that assists you to be more effective and perform your work more safely. Since the inception of that directorate, we've completed more than 100 projects in support of first responders, and we have many, many more in development. Many of our innovations have been commercialized and are available to you, including innovations that help keep you safe, like a burn saver thermal sensor that continuously monitors heat exposure, improved PPE like particulate blocking firefighting turnout gear that keeps airborne toxins from entering through vulnerable spots, and situational awareness tools like the Team Awareness Kit, or TAC, that helps first responders track their team members. Through FEMA, we have many grant programs also available that are designed to shift the focus away from reactive post-disaster spending to proactive investment in our community's resilience. More than $3 billion in funding is available for the fiscal year 2022, building resilient infrastructure in communities, and flood mitigation assistance grant programs. The Assistance to Firefighters Grant, or AFG program, and the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, or SAFER grant program, can help you increase your staffing and purchase vital equipment. For example, fire departments in New Philadelphia, Ohio, Rockwell, Texas, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania have used SAFER grants to increase their staffing and decrease their response times, getting help faster to those who need it most. And I must pause here, because as I mentioned to President Stubing just a few minutes ago, I am very well aware of the fact that the resources we have to provide to you do not meet your demand. I have been studying the dollars that we distribute in our grant programs, and I see the number of applicants, and the mismatch is something, it's a gap that we just need to close. When I speak of the fact that we need to resource you, that this is what you need and you deserve, and it is that which you are entitled to, given the nobility and criticality of your work, I mean it, and that gap just must be closed. I've been in this job for 18 months, and it's always more money that gets the applause. We have also, but it's really, really important. You know, we just have to put our money where our mouth is. People who save lives should not struggle for the resources to save lives. We also have several other grant programs that can help reduce vulnerabilities to a cyber attack, terrorism, or targeted violence. The threats that we face, the threats to which we must respond, are only growing in number and complexity and frequency. As you well know, information sharing is vital in a crisis. Through the Homeland Security Information Network, or HISN, we make it easy for you to access DHS resources from your trucks, fire houses, and cell phones, with the hope that we can better prevent, protect against, respond to, and recover from disasters. All of you present today are a community. We are a part of that community. We are brought together, all of us, by the most noble of purposes, to keep others safe. DHS shares this common purpose with you. At DHS, the principle of partnership, of engaging communities and the agencies and organizations that are a part of our communities, is central to everything we do. We make the greatest difference in the communities we serve when we all work together. You are an important partner for us. There is no more important partner that we have. We have a lot to offer in the way of training, best practices, and other resources to all of you, including to our international partners here today. But please, please, you must let us know how to strengthen our partnership and how we can do better. We are committed to your well-being. On behalf of the United States Department of Homeland Security, I very much look forward to our continued work together. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. Well, if you have not already done so, please add the FRI app to your phone, search the App Store or Google Play for IAFC events, and also you can follow us on Twitter at #FRI2022. So get ready to learn, everyone, Education starts at 10:15, or started at 10:15. There's a full day of sessions ahead today. And as you head to the session rooms for a great lineup of education, please note that new for this year, we'll be doing session scanning at the door for credit. So make sure that you get scanned so you can have the session appear on your FRI transcript. And we hope after a long day of learning, you'll join us at the exhibit hall, which opens at 4 p.m. And of course, the welcome party is on from 5 to 7 p.m. It's open to all with food and drink, and it's a great way to network. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you later tomorrow as well. Enjoy your day. Thank you.